Hey everyone, I'm Mono Scaling. I'm here to guide you today. If you use this video to drift off to sleep, please tap like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now get comfortable and relax. My name is Liam Scott. We ran through the forest, but the shadows chasing us moved like our own bodies. I need to write this down while I still remember what's real. The doctors say I'm experiencing a trauma response, that my brain is protecting itself by fragmenting the memories. But I know what I saw. I know what happened to us in the Boundary Waters that week in October. It was supposed to be a guy's trip plus Jen. Marcus had just gotten a promotion at his tech company, and we all needed to get away from our screens and our lives for a while. Tyler had this old RV he'd bought off Craigslist, a 1987 Winnebago that smelled like mildew and had a shower that barely worked. But it ran and it had 4 beds, and that's all we needed. The plan was simple. Drive up to Minnesota, find a dispersed camping spot near the Boundary Waters, fish, drink beer, and not think about work for 5 days. Marcus and Jen had been fighting about something. He wouldn't tell me what, and I think he hoped the trip would help. Tyler was between jobs again and needed the distraction. I just wanted to not look at a computer screen for a week. We left on a Tuesday morning. The 4 of us crammed into the RV with our gear. Marcus drove first. Jen sat up front with him, scrolling through her phone while she still had service. Tyler and I were in back, him messing with his camera equipment, me trying to read a book I'd been meaning to finish for 6 months. The drive was uneventful. We stopped for gas in Duluth, grabbed sandwiches from a place that looked like it hadn't updated its menu since the 80s. An old woman at the counter asked where we were headed. When Marcus mentioned the Boundary Waters, she got quiet. "Lot of people getting lost up there lately," she said, handing him his change. "Forest Service says it's just folks not being careful, but I don't know. My nephew's a ranger up that way. Says there's been reports of confusion, people seeing things." Marcus laughed it off. "We'll be careful." The woman didn't smile. "Yeah, be careful." We found a dispersed camping area about 20 miles past the last town, down a dirt road that made the RV's suspension groan. The spot was perfect. A clearing surrounded by pine and birch, a small creek running nearby. No one else around. The nearest marked campground was miles away. "This is it," Tyler said, jumping out before Marcus had fully stopped. "This is exactly what I needed." We spent the first afternoon setting up. Marcus and I ran an extension cord to the RV's generator so we could charge our phones, though none of us had service. Jen set up a small camp kitchen on a folding table. Tyler walked the perimeter with his camera, taking photos of the light filtering through the trees. That first night was good. We made burgers on a portable grill, drank whiskey from plastic cups, told stories about college. Marcus seemed more relaxed than I'd seen him in months. Even Jen laughed at Tyler's stupid jokes. Around midnight, we heard something moving in the woods. Not close, but not far either. Something big, crashing through underbrush. "Bear?" Jen asked, moving closer to Marcus. "Probably," I said, though I'd grown up camping and had never heard a bear move quite like that. Too deliberate, like it was pacing. "Maybe we should get in the RV," Jen said. Tyler waved her off. "We're fine. We have a fire going. Animals don't like fire." The sound stopped after a few minutes. We stayed outside another hour, then turned in. I took the bunk above the driver's cab. Tyler got the one in back. Marcus and Jen took the fold-out bed in the middle. I didn't sleep well. The RV made strange sounds, settling probably, or just old vehicle noises. But a few times I could have sworn I heard footsteps outside. Soft, careful footsteps circling us. Morning came gray and cold. I was the first one up, made coffee on the camp stove while the others slept. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. No birds, no squirrels, no sounds of morning at all. Jen came out around 8, wrapped in one of Marcus's sweatshirts. "Did you sleep?" "Not great. You?" Marcus was talking in his sleep. Kept me up. She poured herself coffee, looked out at the trees. "This place feels different in the daylight." "Different how?" She was quiet for a moment. "I don't know. Just different. Marcus and Tyler emerged around 9. We made a breakfast of scrambled eggs and bacon, planned our day. Tyler wanted to hike to a lookout point he'd found on a map. Marcus wanted to try fishing the creek. We decided to split up. Tyler and I would hike. Marcus and Jen would fish. "Let's meet back here by 5, Marcus said. "We can do burgers again." "You have your radio?" I asked. We'd brought walkie-talkies, knowing we wouldn't have phone service. Marcus clipped his to his belt. Channel 3. Tyler and I set off around 10. The trail wasn't marked, but Tyler had a GPS unit that showed topographical maps. The lookout was supposed to be about 3 miles northeast. The hiking was harder than expected. The terrain was rocky, and the trees grew thick enough that we had to push through branches. Tyler kept stopping to take photos. After about an hour, I noticed something odd. "Tyler, doesn't this area look familiar?" He glanced around. "What do you mean?" "That rock formation, I swear we passed it 20 minutes ago." "You're imagining things." But 10 minutes later, we definitely passed the same formation. I was sure of it. Tyler checked his GPS. "That's weird." "What?" "According to this, we've been walking in a straight line. But these coordinates, they don't make sense. It says we've covered 2 miles, but also that we're only half a mile from the RV. Let me see." The screen showed our path, a relatively straight line heading northeast, but the distance counter kept fluctuating. 2, 3 miles, 0, 6 miles, 1, 9 miles, 0, 4 miles. "This thing must be broken," Tyler said, smacking it against his palm. "Maybe we should head back." "No way, we just started. It's probably just interference from the trees or something." We kept going. The forest got darker, the trees pressing closer. I started feeling like we were being watched, but every time I turned around, there was nothing there. Around noon, we stopped to eat the sandwiches we'd packed. Tyler was checking his GPS again, frowning. "What?" I asked. "It says we're back at the RV." I looked over his shoulder. The blue dot marking our position was sitting right on top of the RV icon. "That's impossible. We've been walking for 2 hours." Tyler turned the unit off, then on again. Same thing. "I don't understand." That's when I saw him, about 50 yards ahead through a gap in the trees. A person standing completely still, facing away from us, wearing jeans and a dark jacket. "Tyler," I said quietly. "Is that someone else out here?" He followed my gaze. "Maybe another camper?" "Hey," I called out. "Hello." The figure didn't move. "Maybe they can't hear you," Tyler said. "Let's get closer." We walked toward the figure. It stayed motionless as we approached. 30 yards, 20, 10. It was wearing the exact same jacket Tyler had on. "What the hell?" Tyler whispered. The figure turned around. It was Tyler. Same face, same clothes, same everything. But the expression was wrong. Blank, empty, like someone had drawn a face without understanding what faces were supposed to look like. "No," Tyler said beside me. "No, that's not..." The other Tyler smiled. Not a real smile, just lips pulling back from teeth. We ran. I don't know how long we ran. The forest was a blur of brown and green. Branches whipped at my face. I could hear Tyler behind me, breathing hard, and behind him, footsteps, fast, steady, gaining. When I finally stopped gasping, Tyler crashed into me and we both went down. We lay there for a moment, listening. The forest was silent again. What was that? Tyler was shaking. What was that thing? I don't know. It looked exactly like me. Exactly. I know. This is wrong. We need to get back to the RV. We need to get Marcus and Jen and get the hell out of here. We got up, looked around. I had no idea which direction we'd come from. The GPS unit was showing nonsense, our location jumping all over the map. "This way," Tyler said, pointing randomly. "How do you know?" "I don't. But we can't stay here." We walked for what felt like hours. The sun never seemed to move in the sky. At some point, I realized we'd been seeing the same broken birch tree over and over. Not similar trees. The same tree, with the same pattern of breaks. "We're going in circles," I said. "No, we can't be. I've been keeping track of—" Tyler stopped mid-sentence. Ahead of us, through the trees, I could see the RV. Relief flooded through me. We jogged toward it, calling for Marcus and Jen. The clearing was empty. The camp chairs were set up exactly as we'd left them. The cooler sat next to the dead fire pit. But no Marcus, no Jen, no sign they'd been here all day. "Maybe they're still fishing," Tyler said, but he didn't sound convinced. I tried the RV door. Locked. I peered through the windows. Everything looked normal inside. "Marcus!" I shouted. "Jen!" Nothing. Tyler unclipped his radio. "Marcus, you copy? Over." Static. "Marcus, this is Tyler. Where are you guys? Over." More static than voices. Distorted, layered over each other, but definitely voices. They might have been saying our names or something that sounded like our names, but wrong. Stretched out, inverted. Tyler dropped the radio. "What the fuck?" That's when we saw them, Marcus and Jen, walking out of the trees to the east, moving strangely, their gaits just slightly off. Marcus was smiling. Jen was smiling. Both of them were smiling too wide. "Hey guys," Marcus called. His voice sounded normal. Almost normal. "How was the hike?" "Stay back," Tyler said. Marcus stopped, tilted his head. The movement was too sharp, too bird-like. "What's wrong?" "You're not Marcus." The thing wearing Marcus's face frowned, and the expression was grotesque in its perfection. "Of course I am. Are you feeling okay? Did you get dehydrated?" Jen moved closer. "You both look pale. Come sit down. We'll get you some water." I said stay back. Tyler had pulled out his pocket knife, a small thing that wouldn't do much damage, but it was all we had. The Marcus thing looked at the Jen thing. Something passed between them. Not words, not even looks really, just communication. Then they both moved at once, inhumanly fast, and Tyler and I were running again, back into the forest, away from the clearing and the RV and everything we'd brought with us. We didn't stop until we physically couldn't run anymore. My lungs burned. Tyler collapsed against a tree, gasping. "What are they?" he managed. "I don't know." "Where are the real Marcus and Jen?" That question terrified me more than anything else. Where were they? Were they dead? Were they somewhere in these woods being chased by their own doubles? Or had they become the doubles? Had something hollowed them out and crawled inside? "We need a plan," I said. "We can't just run forever." "What kind of plan?" "You saw them. They moved like something pretending to be human." "The RV. We need to get to the RV. The keys are still in it. If we can get inside, lock the doors, we can drive out of here." "They're probably waiting there." "Maybe, but it's our only chance." We waited until it started getting dark. The sun was finally moving, sinking toward the horizon. Or maybe it was always moving and we'd just been too turned around to notice. As we made our way back toward the clearing, moving as quietly as possible, I started noticing things. Small things. The way certain trees repeated in patterns that didn't make sense. The way the ground seemed to slope downhill no matter which direction we went. The complete absence of any animal life. No birds, no insects, not even the sound of wind in the trees. When we reached the edge of the clearing, we crouched behind a fallen log and watched. The RV sat silent in the gathering darkness. The camp chairs were still arranged around the dead fire. No movement, no sound. "I don't like this," Tyler whispered. "Me neither, but we don't have a choice." We waited another 10 minutes. Nothing. Finally, I stood up. "Stay here. I'll check it out." Like hell, we stick together. We approached the RV slowly, ready to run at any moment. I tried the door again. Still locked. Through the window, I could see the keys sitting on the dashboard, right where Marcus had left them. "We need to break in," I said. "That'll make noise." "I know." I found a rock, wrapped it in my jacket to muffle the sound, and smashed the passenger side window. The glass cracked but didn't shatter completely. It took 3 more hits before I could clear enough of it to reach through and unlock the door. The second we were inside, I locked it again and grabbed the keys. Tyler was scanning the forest through the windows, his knife still clutched in his hand. "Anything?" I asked. "No, but they're out there. I can feel them." I turned the key. The engine turned over once, twice, then died. I tried again. Same thing. "Come on," I muttered. "Come on, you piece of shit." Third try. The engine caught, rumbled to life. Relief and terror mixed in my chest. I turned on the headlights, threw the RV into gear. That's when they appeared. 4 figures standing in front of us, illuminated by the headlights. Marcus, Jen, Tyler, and me. All of them, all of us, standing perfectly still, staring at the RV with those same empty expressions. "Oh God," Tyler said. "Oh God, there's me. There's both of us." The figures didn't move as I revved the engine. I thought about just driving forward, running them down, but something stopped me. What if they were the real ones? What if we were the copies? I threw the RV in reverse instead, backing up fast and jerky. The figures watched us go but didn't follow. In the headlights, I could see all 4 of them slowly raise their hands in unison, waving goodbye. I turned the RV around on the narrow trail, scraping against trees on both sides. Tyler was muttering something under his breath. Maybe a prayer, maybe just panic. I focused on driving, on getting us out of there. The dirt road was worse than I remembered. Potholes and rocks jarred us violently. A branch scraped the entire length of the RV with a sound like nails on a chalkboard. But I kept going, pushing the old vehicle as fast as it would go. After about 20 minutes, Tyler spoke. "Liam, what?" We passed that sign 3 times. I looked. He was right. The same weathered Forest Service sign, the same bullet holes in it. 3 times in the last 10 minutes. "That's impossible. I've been driving straight." "You have, but we keep passing it." I stopped the RV, put it in park. My hands were shaking on the wheel. "What do we do?" "I don't know." We sat there in the darkness, the engine idling. In the headlights, I could see the road stretching ahead, disappearing into trees. It looked normal. It looked like any other forest road. "Maybe we should try going on foot," Tyler said. "The RV is too obvious." "Or maybe that's what they want us to do. Maybe the RV is the only thing keeping them away." "Then why haven't they attacked?" Good question. I didn't have an answer. That's when we heard it. Footsteps on the roof. Slow, deliberate footsteps walking from the back of the RV toward the front. Tyler and I looked at each other. Without a word, I threw the RV back in gear and stomped on the gas. The vehicle lurched forward. The footsteps stumbled, but didn't stop. Something was up there, something was walking on the roof above us. I swerved hard left, then right, trying to throw whatever it was off. The RV tilted dangerously. Tyler grabbed onto the dashboard. I could hear things crashing in the cabinets, but the footsteps continued, steady and patient. Then a face appeared in the windshield, hanging upside down from the roof. My face, looking at me with that empty expression, that wrong smile. I screamed and jerked the wheel. The RV went off the road, crashed through undergrowth. A tree branch shattered the already damaged passenger window. The vehicle tilted, and for a moment I thought we were going to roll. But it slammed back down on 4 wheels, and I kept driving, off-road now, just trying to get away. The thing on the roof finally fell off. I saw it tumble past the side window, but I didn't slow down. I couldn't. We crashed through the forest for 10 minutes, maybe more, the RV's undercarriage scraping on rocks, the engine screaming. Then suddenly we burst into another clearing. And there was our campsite, the same dead fire pit, the same camp chairs, the same cooler. "No," I said. "No, no, no." I'd driven in a completely straight line. There was no way we should be back here. Tyler's door flew open. He stumbled out, fell to his knees, and vomited. I turned off the engine with shaking hands and sat there staring at the steering wheel. We were trapped. The forest wouldn't let us leave. I don't know how long I sat there. Eventually, Tyler climbed back in, wiping his mouth. His face was pale, his eyes unfocused. "We're going to die here," he said. It wasn't a question. No, there has to be a way out. "You saw what I saw. We're in a loop. Every road leads back here. This is where they want us. Then we wait. Wait for morning. Wait for what? For them to come back? For more of those things to show up?" He was right. We couldn't just wait. But I didn't know what else to do. That's when we heard Marcus's voice. "Liam, Tyler, are you guys in there?" We both froze. The voice came from outside near the RV door. "Guys, it's me. It's really me. Please open the door." It sounded exactly like Marcus. Same tone, same inflection, same slight hoarseness he got when he was tired or stressed. "Don't," Tyler whispered. "Marcus?" I called out. "If that's really you, tell me something only you would know." Silence for a moment. Then, "Remember sophomore year? You got food poisoning from that sketchy taco truck and I stayed up all night with you in the dorm bathroom. You were so embarrassed that you made me promise never to tell anyone." That was true. That had happened. Marcus was the only person who knew about it. "You puked 9 times, the voice continued. "You kept apologizing. I kept telling you it was fine. That's what friends do." My hand moved toward the door lock before I could stop it. Tyler grabbed my arm. "It could have gotten that from the real Marcus," he hissed. "Before it. Before." "Please," Marcus's voice said. "I'm scared. I don't know what's happening. Jen is gone. I can't find her. I need help." I looked at Tyler. His face was anguished. We were both thinking the same thing. What if it really was him? What if our friend was out there, terrified and alone, and we were refusing to help? "Step into the headlights," I said. "Let us see you." Footsteps. Then Marcus appeared in front of the RV, illuminated by the headlights. He looked normal, same clothes he'd been wearing that morning. His hands were raised, showing he wasn't armed. His face was twisted with fear and confusion. "Please," he said. "I don't understand what's happening." "Where's Jen?" I asked through the window. "I don't know. We were fishing and she said she needed to go to the bathroom. She went into the woods and never came back. I looked everywhere. I heard you guys screaming earlier in the distance, but I couldn't find you. Then I heard the RV. Please let me in." It sounded real. It looked real. But I'd seen how perfect the copies were. "Do something only Marcus would do," Tyler said. Marcus looked confused. "What?" "Some gesture, some habit, something that proves you're really you." Marcus thought for a moment, then did something that broke my heart. He raised his right hand and tapped his fingers against his thumb in sequence. Pinky, ring, middle, index, pinky, ring, middle, index, over and over. It was something he'd done since college when he was nervous, or thinking. A stim habit he was embarrassed about. "Okay," I said, unlocking the door. "Get in, quickly." Marcus ran to the door and climbed in. Tyler immediately moved away from him, keeping his knife visible. Marcus looked at the knife, then at us. "You guys look terrible. What happened?" "What happened?" Tyler's voice was shrill. "What happened is there are things in this forest that look exactly like us. We saw them. We saw you and Jen, and they weren't you." Marcus stared at him. "What are you talking about?" I explained everything as quickly as I could. The GPS glitches. The thing that looked like Tyler. The versions of Marcus and Jen that came out of the trees. The figures standing in front of the RV. Marcus's face grew paler as I talked. "That's insane," he said. "That's actually insane. Are you sure you didn't eat something weird, or maybe there was a gas leak in the RV?" "We saw what we saw," Tyler said. "And you can't convince us otherwise." Marcus ran his hands through his hair, still doing that finger-tapping thing. Okay, say I believe you. Say there really are things that look like us. What do we do?" "We get out of here," I said. "Except we can't. I tried driving and we just end up back here. Then we go on foot. We head toward the main road and we don't stop until we hit civilization." "We tried that too," We just end up in circles. Then what do you suggest? We sit here and wait for these things to come back? He had a point. Staying in the RV felt safer, but it also felt like we were just waiting to be picked off. At least if we were moving, we had a chance. "Where's your radio?" I asked Marcus. He unclipped it from his belt and handed it to me. I turned it on, tried channel 3. Static, and under it, those voices. Layered, distorted, wrong. "What is that?" Marcus asked. "We don't know." I turned the radio off and looked at both of them. "Here's what I think. Those things, whatever they are, they're messing with space somehow. Making us go in circles. Maybe messing with time, too. The GPS going crazy, the road looping, all of it. But there has to be a way out. Some kind of edge or boundary." "How do you know?" Tyler asked. "I don't. But it's the only explanation that makes any sense. This place, this area, it's like a trap. But traps have limits." "So we what, just pick a direction and keep walking?" "We split up," Marcus said. We both looked at him. "Think about it. If the forest is making us loop, maybe it can only do it if we're all together. If we separate, go in different directions, one of us might get through." "That's a terrible idea," Tyler said. "Horror movie 101, never split up." "This isn't a movie. We need to think strategically. If we all stay together and we're trapped, we all die. If we split up, at least someone might make it out. Someone who can get help." He was right, and I hated it, but he was right. "Okay," I said. "We each take supplies, water, food, a flashlight. We pick 3 different directions based on the compass. North, east, west. We walk in straight lines. No matter what happens, no matter what we see or hear, we keep walking. And if any of us makes it out, we get help for the others." We spent the next hour dividing supplies and gear. Marcus would go north, Tyler east, I'd go west. We synchronized our watches. It was 11:47 p.m. We'd walk until sunrise. If anyone made it out, they'd call the authorities immediately. Before we left, Marcus grabbed my shoulder. "Liam, if you see something that looks like me or Jen or Tyler, don't trust it. Don't listen to it. Just keep walking." "Same to you." We stood there for a moment, the 3 of us, and I wondered if this was the last time we'd see each other. If these were the last few seconds we'd have as ourselves, as real, before the forest took us apart. "All right," Marcus said. "Midnight, on my mark." We lined up at the edge of the clearing, facing our designated directions. 3, 2, 1, mark. We walked into the darkness. I kept my flashlight pointed at the ground, watching my feet, counting steps. My compass was clipped to my jacket, the needle pointing steadily west. As long as I kept it pointing west, I was going in a straight line. That was the theory anyway. The forest was absolutely silent. No sounds at all. Not even my footsteps seemed to make noise, just my breathing and my heartbeat. After a while, even those seemed muffled, distant. At some point, I started hearing Tyler's voice, calling my name. "Liam, Liam, I'm lost. I can't find the way out." I kept walking. "Liam, please. There's something following me." I kept walking. "Liam, why did you leave me? I thought we were friends." I kept walking. The voice got louder, more desperate, then angry. It cursed me, screamed at me, begged me. I put my hands over my ears and kept walking. Then I heard something worse. My own voice. "Tyler, Marcus, where did you guys go?" It was coming from behind me, following me through the forest. My own voice, calling for my friends like I was lost and confused. "Guys, this isn't funny. Where are you?" I walked faster. The voice kept pace. "Hello? Is anyone there? Please, I need help." Footsteps now, crunching through leaves behind me. Fast, getting closer. I started running. The voice changed, became something else. Not words anymore, just sounds that approximated human speech. Vocal cords trying to remember how to form language. I ran until I tripped over a root and went down hard. My flashlight flew from my hand, rolled away. In its spinning light, I saw them. Dozens of them. Hundreds. All of us. Every possible version of me. Of Tyler, of Marcus, of Jen. Standing between the trees. Watching. Some were close to perfect copies. Others were wrong in subtle ways. Eyes too far apart, mouths that didn't quite close, fingers with too many joints. Some were barely human anymore, just shambling things wearing our skin like loose clothing. They didn't move as I scrambled for my flashlight. They just watched with varying degrees of empty curiosity. I grabbed the light and ran again. Compass be damned. I just ran, and the trees blurred past, and behind me I could hear all of them moving now. Following, a mass of footsteps and borrowed voices. I burst into a clearing and stopped dead. The RV sat in front of me. Same clearing, same dead fire pit, same camp chairs. I'd failed. I'd come back. Then I saw Tyler and Marcus stumbling out of the trees from different directions. They saw me, saw each other, saw the RV. "No," Tyler said. "No, I walked in a straight line. I checked my compass every 30 seconds. "Me too," Marcus said. His voice was hollow. We stood there, the three of us, and I think that's when we all realized the truth. We were never going to leave. This place, whatever it was, had us. The only question was what it would do to us. That's when we heard Jen scream. It came from the forest behind the RV, a genuine scream of terror and pain, not the mimicked voices we'd been hearing. Real, human. Jen. Marcus ran toward it without thinking. Tyler and I chased after him, yelling for him to stop, but he was faster. We crashed through the underbrush, following the sound of the screaming and Marcus shouting Jen's name. We found them in a small hollow between two massive pine trees. Jen was there. The real Jen, I was sure of it. She was curled on the ground, sobbing, her clothes torn and muddy, and standing over her was another Jen. This one was smiling. "Marcus," the standing Jen said in a perfect imitation of her voice. "Help me. Something's wrong with me." The real Jen on the ground looked up at us with eyes full of terror and tears. "Don't listen to her, please. She's not me, I'm me." The standing Jen looked sad. "I don't understand why this is happening. Why there are two of me. Please, Marcus, I'm scared." Marcus stood frozen between them, looking from one to the other. Both of them were perfect copies. Both sounded exactly like Jen. Both had her mannerisms, her expressions, her voice. "How do we know which is which?" Tyler whispered. That's when the standing Jen's head rotated. Not her body, just her head. A smooth 180-degree rotation until she was looking at us backwards. Her smile didn't change. "Run," I said. We grabbed the real Jen and ran. Marcus had her arm, half carrying her as she limped. Tyler and I ran behind them, and behind us I could hear things moving through the forest. A lot of things. When we got back to the clearing, we all piled into the RV. I locked every door, closed every curtain. We huddled together in the back, breathing hard. Jen was crying silently. Marcus held her, and for the first time since this started, I saw him crying too. "What are they?" Jen asked. "What do they want?" None of us had an answer. That's when the RV started shaking. Gently at first, then harder. Things rattled in the cabinets. The whole vehicle rocked back and forth like something massive was pushing it. "They're trying to get in," Tyler said. The shaking stopped suddenly. Silence. Then we heard it, all around the RV. Voices. Our voices. Talking to each other. Having conversations we'd had earlier that day, yesterday, at other times. Every word we'd spoken since arriving here, played back to us by dozens of mouths. This is exactly what I needed. Maybe we should get in the RV. How was the hike? This is where they want us. On and on, fragments of our own voices creating a symphony of wrongness around us. "Make it stop," Jen whispered. "Please make it stop." But it didn't stop. It went on for hours. Our voices layered over each other, sometimes mimicking conversations perfectly, sometimes mixing them up into nonsense, sometimes saying things we'd never said in voices that were almost but not quite right. Somewhere around what must have been 3 or 4 in the morning, I realized something. I looked at my watch. 11:53 p.m. I looked again. 11:53 p.m. "Guys," I said, Check your watches. We all did. All of them read 11:53 p.m., the exact time we'd been about to split up and go into the forest. Time stopped, Marcus said. Or looped, or something. None of this is real, Tyler said. He was rocking back and forth. We're dead. We died and this is hell. We're not dead, I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it. Then what is this? What are those things? Jen spoke, her voice surprisingly calm despite the tears on her face. I think I know. We all looked at her. When I was separated from Marcus, when I went into the woods, I found something. A marker, like a grave marker, but old. Really old. It had writing on it, but not English. Some other language and symbols. What kind of symbols? I asked. I don't know. But there were others. Lots of them. All in a circle, like a mass grave or something. A burial ground, Marcus said quietly. We set up camp on a burial ground. That's not how it works, Tyler said. That's movie bullshit. Then you explain it, Marcus snapped. You explain what the hell is happening to us. Before Tyler could respond, the voices outside stopped. Complete silence. Then a knock on the door. 3 measured knocks, like a neighbor asking to borrow sugar. We all stared at the door. Nobody moved. 3 more knocks. Harder this time. Don't answer it, Jen whispered. The knocking continued, getting harder and harder until the whole RV was shaking with each impact. Then it stopped. A voice spoke from just outside the door. My voice. I know you're in there. I know you can hear me. Don't respond, I whispered to the others. You can't stay in there forever. Eventually you'll have to come out. You'll have to sleep. You'll have to eat. And we'll be waiting. The thing outside was quiet for a moment. Then it spoke again, and this time its voice had changed. It was still mine, but layered now, like multiple versions of me speaking at once. You don't understand. We're not trying to hurt you, we're trying to help, we're showing you the truth. What truth? Tyler shouted before I could stop him. Silence. Then a sound I'll never forget. Laughter. Dozens of voices laughing in perfect unison. The truth that you're already one of us. You've been one of us since you arrived. This place doesn't trap people. It reveals what they really are. That's not true, Marcus said. Isn't it? Tell me, Marcus, when did you last feel truly real, truly yourself? Haven't you felt like you were just going through the motions, pretending to be human? Haven't you all felt that way? I wanted to argue, to shout that it was wrong, but something about what it said resonated. I had felt that way sometimes, like I was performing the role of Liam Scott, playing the character in my own life. That's just normal dissociation, Jen said, like she was reading my thoughts. That's just being human. Is it? The voice asked. Or is it your true nature bleeding through? You're not trapped here. This is where you belong. With us. With your real family. Shut up, Tyler screamed. He ran to the door, unlocked it, and threw it open. Tyler, no, I shouted, but there was no one there. The clearing was empty. Nothing but trees and darkness and the dead fire pit. Tyler stood in the doorway looking out. It's gone. They're all gone. Close the door, Marcus said. Close it now. But Tyler didn't move. He was staring at something we couldn't see. Tyler, I said. He turned back to look at us, and his face was wrong. Not completely wrong, not like the obvious copies, just slightly wrong. His smile was a bit too wide. His eyes didn't blink quite right. They're not gone, he said. They were never out there. They've always been in here. He lunged at Jen. Marcus tackled him, and they went down in a tangle of limbs. I grabbed Jen and pulled her back. Tyler was screaming, but not with Tyler's voice. It was that layered sound, multiple voices trying to work the same throat. Get off me, the thing that was Tyler shouted. I need to help her. I need to show her. Marcus was on top of him, pinning his arms. Tyler, snap out of it. I'm not Tyler. The thing screamed. I was never Tyler. None of us are who we think we are. It kept screaming as Marcus held it down. I didn't know what to do. This was our friend. Or had been our friend. Or was currently our friend fighting against something inside him. I couldn't tell anymore. Jen was sobbing again, pressed against the back wall of the RV. Make it stop, please make it stop. That's when I heard the second voice, coming from behind me. Liam. I turned slowly. Marcus was looking at me, but he was also still on the ground holding Tyler. Two Marcuses, both real, both impossible. Liam, the Marcus behind me said again. You need to help me restrain him, before he hurts someone. You're not real, I said. Marcus looked hurt. Of course I'm real. I'm your best friend. We've known each other for 10 years. Don't you remember? The Marcus on the ground spoke without turning. Don't listen to it. Help me hold Tyler. I am helping you, the standing Marcus said. I'm here. I'm always here. I looked between them, then at Jen. Her eyes were wide with terror, but she was staring at something above my head. I looked up. Another Jen was crawling across the ceiling, moving like a spider, her neck bent at an impossible angle to look down at us. She was smiling. Hi, Marcus, Ceiling Jen said in Jen's voice. I've been looking for you. That's when everything fell apart. The standing Marcus grabbed me. Real Marcus screamed. Tyler broke free and lunged again. Ceiling Jen dropped down, and I realized that we were all breaking, all of us splitting into versions and copies and things that were almost but not quite human. I fought. I don't remember exactly what happened. Hands grabbed me, voices shouted, bodies pressed against mine. I hit something soft, then something hard. Someone was crying. Someone was laughing. Someone was making sounds that shouldn't come from a human throat. Then I was outside, running again. I don't know how I got out. I just know I was running through the forest, branches tearing at my face, and behind me I could hear them coming. All of them, all of us. I ran until I couldn't run anymore. And then I collapsed in a clearing that might have been our camp and might not have been. I lay there gasping, waiting for them to catch me, waiting for it to be over. But they didn't come. I lay there as the sky slowly lightened. Dawn was coming. Real dawn, I thought. I hoped. As the sun rose, I heard a helicopter. Distant at first, then closer. The sound of rescue. The sound of the real world. I stood up and waved my arms, shouting. The helicopter circled, then landed in a larger clearing about 50 yards away. Two park rangers ran toward me. Are you Liam Scott? One of them shouted. Yes, I'm Liam Scott. My friends, they're still out there. The rangers reached me. One of them grabbed my arm to steady me. Take it easy. We've been searching for you for 3 days. Your RV was found abandoned. No sign of the others. 3 days? No, it's only been 1 night. The rangers exchanged a glance. Sir, you've been missing for 3 days. Do you know where your friends are? I don't. I tried to explain, but it came out as babbling. They led me to the helicopter, wrapped me in a blanket. As we lifted off, I looked down at the forest. I saw them, all 4 of us, standing in the clearing around the RV, looking up. Marcus, Jen, Tyler, and me, all of us watching the helicopter fly away. But I was in the helicopter. I was the one being rescued. So who was standing down there? The rangers found Marcus 2 days later, wandering along a road 30 miles from our campsite. He had no memory of how he got there. They found Jen a week after that, in a town neither of us had ever been to, working as a waitress. She didn't recognize her own name at first. Tyler was never found. We were all examined by doctors, questioned by police. The RV was recovered, all our gear intact. There was no evidence of anything unusual. No markers, no burial ground, nothing but an abandoned campsite and 3 traumatized people with conflicting stories. Marcus and I meet sometimes. We don't talk about what happened. We can't. Every time we try, the words come out wrong, like we're describing different events. Jen won't see either of us. She says we're not real, that the real Marcus and Liam are still out there in the forest. Sometimes I think she might be right. Because here's the thing they don't know that I haven't told anyone. Sometimes I look in the mirror and I see something behind me. Just for a second. Something that looks like me but isn't quite right. And sometimes late at night I hear knocking on my door. 3 measured knocks. Like a neighbor asking to borrow sugar. And I wonder if I'm really Liam Scott, or if I'm just one of the things from the forest, walking around in his skin pretending to be human, going through the motions of his life. I wonder if I ever really left that clearing. I wonder if any of us did. The doctors say I'm recovering. My therapist says the trauma is processing. My friends, my other friends, the ones I've known since childhood, say I seem different, but they can't quite explain how. And sometimes I catch myself doing that finger-tapping thing that Marcus does when he's nervous. Pinky, ring, middle, index. Pinky, ring, middle, index. But I never did that before. That was always Marcus's habit, not mine, wasn't it? My name is Aaron Mitchell. What I'm about to tell you happened 3 weeks ago at an RV park near Lake Powell, Utah. I've tried explaining it to the police, to my family, to anyone who'll listen. Most people think I had some kind of breakdown. Maybe they're right. But I know what I experienced and I need to write it down before the details start slipping away. I went with 3 friends, Mark, Jessica, and Colin. We'd known each other since college, and every summer we tried to take a week-long trip somewhere. This year it was Utah. Colin had rented a 30-foot RV, and we planned to spend 5 days camping near the lake, hiking during the day, drinking at night. Normal vacation stuff. The drive took longer than expected. We left Phoenix early Thursday morning, but between bathroom breaks and a 2-hour delay when the RV overheated outside Flagstaff, we didn't reach the campground until almost 7 p.m. The sun was setting as Colin pulled into Site 14, a flat dirt pad with a picnic table and fire ring, set back about 50 yards from the next closest site. "This is perfect," Jessica said, stepping out and stretching. "God, I need to pee." The campground was maybe a third full. Most sites sat empty, just concrete pads and wooden posts marking their boundaries. I saw a few other RVs scattered around, a couple of tents in the distance. The ranger station sat near the entrance, a small brown building with a closed sign already hanging in the window. We spent the next hour setting up, plugging in the RV, arranging the camping chairs, getting the cooler situated. Mark started a fire while I walked the perimeter of our site. The lake spread out maybe 100 yards away, dark and flat. The air smelled like dust and sage. Colin cooked hamburgers on a portable grill. We ate at the picnic table, watching the last light fade from the sky. Jessica told a story about her nightmare coworker. Mark complained about his knee, which had been bothering him since a basketball injury last month. Normal conversation. Easy. Around 9:30, I went inside the RV to grab another beer. That's when I noticed the clock on the microwave was flashing 12:00. I called out to Colin. "Did you set this?" "Set what?" "The clock, it's blinking." He came inside, looked at it. "Power probably surged when we plugged in. I'll fix it later." I shrugged and grabbed my beer. When I came back outside, Jessica was staring at her phone. "That's weird," she said. "What?" "I'm not getting any signal. I had 2 bars when we got here." Mark checked his phone. "Mine's dead. I charged it in the car, though." "Mine too," Colin said, pulling his from his pocket. The screen was black. He held down the power button. Nothing happened. "Probably the altitude or something," I said, though that didn't make much sense. I checked my own phone. Also dead, even though it had been at 60% an hour ago. Jessica laughed. "Great. We're completely off the grid now." "That's kind of the point," Mark said. "No work emails, no bullshit. Just us and nature." We sat around the fire for another hour, finishing the beers and talking about nothing important. The temperature dropped fast once the sun was gone. By 11, Jessica was yawning. "I'm heading in," she said. "These old bones need rest." Colin followed her inside. Mark and I stayed by the fire for a few more minutes. "You hear that?" Mark asked suddenly. I listened. Just the crackling of the fire, maybe some wind rustling through the brush. "Hear what?" "Thought I heard someone talking, probably from another site." We sat in silence for another minute. I didn't hear anything except the fire. "I'm beat too," I said finally. "Let's call it." We doused the fire and went inside. The RV had 2 small bedrooms in the back. Jessica took one, Colin and Mark shared the other. I got the converted dining area, which folded into a narrow bed. Not comfortable, but I'd slept worse places. I lay there for a while, listening to the sounds of everyone settling in. Jessica's light clicked off. Mark and Colin talked quietly for a few minutes, then went silent. The RV ticked and creaked as it cooled. I must have fallen asleep around midnight. I woke to bright light in my face. For a second, I didn't know where I was. Then I remembered the RV, Lake Powell, camping trip. But something was wrong. Sunlight streamed through the windows. My phone sat on the small shelf next to the bed, and when I grabbed it, the screen lit up immediately. Full battery. The time read 6:47 p.m. That couldn't be right. I'd gone to sleep after midnight. I should have woken up in the morning, not the evening, and my phone had been dead. I heard voices outside. Sitting up, I looked through the window and saw Colin at the grill, Mark starting a fire. Jessica stood by the cooler, pulling out beers. I went to the door and stepped outside. The sun was setting, painting everything in orange light. "Hey, sleepyhead," Jessica said. "Have a good nap. What time is it?" "Almost 7. We just got here like 20 minutes ago." I stared at her. "What are you talking about?" "We just pulled in. Don't you remember? You walked around checking out the site, then disappeared into the RV. I figured you were tired from the drive." Colin turned from the grill holding a spatula. "You feeling okay, man? You look confused." Didn't we already do this? Last night?" They all looked at me like I'd said something in a foreign language. "Last night we were in Phoenix," Mark said slowly. "We drove all day, remember? We literally just got here." I walked over to the fire ring. The ashes from our fire the night before should have been there, but the ring was empty and clean. I checked the picnic table. No crumbs, no beer bottle rings, nothing to indicate we'd eaten here before. "I need a second," I said, and went back inside. The RV looked exactly like it had when we'd first arrived. The bed's unmade, our bags still packed by the door. The clock on the microwave blinked 12:00. My phone, which I'd just seen at full battery, now showed 60%. I sat on the converted bed and tried to think. This had to be some kind of joke. But why would they bother? And how would they have cleaned everything, reset everything, just to mess with me? Maybe I'd had some kind of episode, a seizure or something, and I'd dreamed the whole night. That made more sense than what I was thinking, which was impossible. Jessica knocked on the door. "Aaron, you okay?" "Yeah," I called back. "Just feeling weird. Must be the drive." "Come eat, Colin made burgers." I joined them outside. We ate at the picnic table. Jessica told the exact same story about her coworker. Mark complained about his knee. The conversation unfolded word for word the same as the night before. I interrupted her. "Your coworker who schedules meetings at 4:55 p.m., right?" She blinked. "Yeah. How'd you know?" I was just about to say that. Lucky guess. But my hands were shaking. This wasn't possible. I'd heard this exact conversation before. Around 9:30, Colin stood up. "I'm going to grab another beer. Anyone need anything?" "I'll come with you," I said quickly. Inside the RV, I watched him walk to the small fridge. "Check the microwave clock," I said. He glanced at it, blinking. "Power surge probably, I'll fix it later." The exact same words. "Colin, I need to tell you something, and I need you to not think I'm crazy." He looked at me. "Okay. I think we're repeating. I think we already lived through this night, and now we're doing it again." He was quiet for a moment, then laughed. Did you eat some of Mark's edibles or something? I'm serious. Check your phone. He pulled it from his pocket. The screen was black. Dead. That's weird. I charged it in the car. And now Jessica's going to say she doesn't have signal, and Mark's phone will be dead too. And we're going to sit around the fire and you're all going to go to bed and I'm going to fall asleep and then I'm going to wake up and it'll be 6:47 p.m. again and we'll be right back here. Colin stared at me. Aaron, you're freaking me out a little. I'm freaking myself out, but I'm telling you, we already did this. We already had this exact night. He was quiet, studying my face. Then he shook his head. Look, you've been stressed at work. Maybe you just need to relax. Get some sleep. You'll feel better in the morning. There won't be a morning, I said, but he'd already walked back outside. I followed him. Jessica was looking at her phone. That's weird, she said. I'm not getting any signal. The night continued exactly as before. Every word, every gesture. I tried to change things. I told different stories, asked different questions. But the conversation always circled back to the same beats, like a train following tracks. Mark mentioned his knee. Jessica yawned around 11 and went to bed. Colin followed. Mark and I stayed by the fire. You hear that? He asked. No, I said. There's nothing. He looked at me oddly. I was going to say I thought I heard someone talking. I felt cold despite the fire. From another site, right? Yeah. How'd you... I'm going to bed, I said, standing up. I lay on the converted bed and stared at the ceiling. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. I'd fallen asleep in the car and was having some kind of fever dream. Or maybe I'd had an accident and was in a coma, and this was my brain trying to make sense of random neural firing. But it felt real. The lumpy mattress under my back felt real. The sound of Mark and Colin talking quietly in the other room felt real. I closed my eyes and tried not to think about what would happen when I woke up. Bright light in my face. My phone read 6:47 p.m., full battery. I lay there for a long moment, just breathing. Then I got up and went outside. Colin stood at the grill. Mark was starting a fire. Jessica pulled beers from the cooler. Hey, sleepyhead, she said. Have a good nap? This time I didn't bother trying to explain. I just nodded and sat at the picnic table. The conversation played out the same. Dinner, fire, bedtime. I went through the motions like an actor in a play, saying my lines, hitting my marks. Except this time something was different. Around 10 p.m. after Colin and Jessica had gone inside, Mark and I sat by the fire. He started to speak. You hear that? But then he stopped. We both heard it this time. A voice. Distant but clear. It sounded like someone calling out, though I couldn't make out the words. There, Mark said, pointing toward the darkness beyond our sight. You hear it? Yeah. We sat in silence, listening. The voice came again, closer now. It sounded like a woman calling for someone. A name, maybe, though the words were indistinct. Should we check it out? Mark asked. No, I said quickly. Something about that voice made my skin crawl. It's probably just another camper. Sounded like she needs help. Then she'll go to the ranger station. Mark looked at me strangely, but he didn't push it. We sat there for another few minutes, but the voice didn't come again. Inside the RV, I lay awake for hours. I kept expecting the voice to come closer, to hear someone knocking on the door, but nothing happened. Eventually, I must have dozed off. 6:47 p.m. Full battery. Colin at the grill. 4 loops now. Or maybe I was up to 5 or 6. I was starting to lose track. The day played out the same. Dinner, fire, conversation. I barely participated anymore, just sat there like a zombie while everyone else talked and laughed. But the voice came earlier this time. Around 9 p.m., while we were still eating, I heard it. A woman calling out, the sound drifting across the empty campsites. Do you guys hear that? Jessica asked, setting down her burger. They all stopped talking. The voice came again, Clearer now. It almost sounded like she was saying a name. Aaron? I felt my blood go cold. Did she just say Aaron? Colin asked. Probably saying Aaron or Sharon or something, Mark said. Sound carries weird out here. But I knew what I'd heard. The voice was calling my name. Jessica stood up. We should check on her. She sounds lost. Don't, I said. They all looked at me. Why not? Jessica asked. Because... I stopped. How could I explain? Because we're stuck in a loop and every time we reset something new appears and now there's a voice calling my name and I don't think it's human. Because it's getting dark, I said finally. If someone's really in trouble, they should go to the ranger station. The ranger station is closed, Colin pointed out. The voice came again. Definitely my name this time. Aaron? Aaron, where are you? That's creepy as hell, Mark said. Who the fuck is that? Jessica grabbed a flashlight from inside the RV. I'm going to see if they need help. Jess, don't... But she was already walking toward the sound, flashlight beam swinging through the darkness. We all stood there watching her go. She made it maybe 30 yards before she stopped. There's no one here, she called back. Come back, I said. I heard her, she was right around... The voice came again, but this time it was behind us. I spun around. A figure stood at the edge of our campsite. For a second I thought it was Jessica, but she was still out there with the flashlight. This was someone else, a woman in a pale dress, her face hidden in shadow. Aaron? The woman said. Her voice was exactly like the one we'd heard, but flatter, more monotone. Who are you? Mark asked. She didn't answer. She just stood there, perfectly still. Jessica came running back. What the hell? She said, breathing hard. Who's that? I don't know, Colin said. The woman started walking toward us, slowly, deliberately. As she got closer, I could see her face. It was wrong. I can't explain exactly what was wrong about it. The features were all there, eyes, nose, mouth, but they were slightly off, like someone had drawn a face from memory and gotten the proportions wrong. Her smile was too wide. Her eyes didn't blink. You should leave, I said. My voice came out shaky. She stopped about 10 feet away. Aaron, she said again, I've been looking for you. Who are you? Don't you recognize me? I didn't. I'd never seen her before in my life. I think you should go, Colin said, stepping forward. You're on our site. The woman's head tilted to one side, too far, like her neck had extra joints. I'm not leaving without Aaron, she said. Then she lunged. It wasn't a normal movement. She went from standing still to suddenly right in front of me, covering 10 feet in an instant. Her hands reached for my face, fingers splayed wide. I fell backward over my chair. Mark grabbed her arm, trying to pull her away, and she turned on him with that impossible speed. Her hand caught him across the face and he went down hard. Colin tackled her. They hit the ground together, rolling in the dirt. Jessica screamed, dropping the flashlight. I scrambled to my feet. The woman thrashed underneath Colin, her movements wrong, too jerky and fast. She was saying my name over and over. Aaron, 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 Aaron. Colin was yelling for help. I grabbed his shoulders, trying to pull him off her, but she was incredibly strong. Her hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. Her skin was cold. Not cool, but actually cold, like touching meat from a freezer. Aaron, she said, looking right at me. Wake up. Then everything went black. 6:47 p.m. I gasped, sitting up. My heart hammered. I could still feel where she'd grabbed me, my wrist burning with phantom cold. Outside, Colin stood at the grill. Mark started a fire. Jessica pulled beers from the cooler. I put my head in my hands and tried not to scream. The loops continued. I stopped counting after 10. Maybe it was 15. Maybe 20. Each time I woke at 6:47 p.m. Each time. The night played out the same up to a certain point, and each time something new appeared. The woman in the pale dress came every loop now, but earlier and earlier. By what I guessed was loop 12, She showed up during dinner. By loop 15, she was there when I first walked outside. She never stopped trying to grab me, and every time she got close, everything reset. But she wasn't the only thing that appeared. On loop 18, I found something under my bed in the RV. A photograph, old and faded. It showed this campsite, this exact spot, but from years ago. A family stood in front of an old camper, a man, a woman, and a young boy. The woman in the photo looked like the woman in the pale dress. I showed it to the others, but they just looked confused. "Where'd this come from?" Colin asked. "It was under the bed." "Weird. Probably left by the people who rented before us." On loop 21, Mark went missing. It happened during dinner. He excused himself to use the bathroom in the RV and just never came back out. We waited 5 minutes, then 10. Finally, Colin went to check on him. "He's not in there," Colin said, coming back outside. We searched the RV top to bottom. No Mark. Then we searched the surrounding area, calling his name. Nothing. Around midnight, he came walking back into the campsite. "Where the hell have you been?" Jessica demanded. Mark looked at her with that same too wide smile. "Just taking a walk." "For 6 hours? Has it been that long?" He sat down at the picnic table. Time got away from me. Something was wrong with his eyes. They didn't move right, didn't focus on anything specific. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I'm perfect," he said. Never better. He sat there smiling at us until we went to bed. When I glanced out the window, he was still sitting there, perfectly still, staring at nothing. The reset came at 6:47 p.m., and Mark was normal again, but I knew it would happen again. And it did, on every subsequent loop. He'd disappear, come back wrong. And each time he seemed a little less like Mark. On loop 27, Jessica disappeared too. They came back together around 1 a.m., both of them smiling, both of them wrong. "We went for a walk," Jessica said. "Together?" Colin asked. "Yes, it was nice. You should come next time." They sat at the picnic table, side by side, smiling at us, not blinking, not moving except to breathe. Colin looked at me. I could see the fear in his eyes. He felt it too. Something was very wrong. "I'm going to bed," he said quietly. Inside the RV, he grabbed my arm. "What the fuck is happening?" he whispered. "I don't know." "They're not. That's not them, right? You see it too?" "I see it." "What do we do?" "I don't know," I said again. "Just stay away from them. Don't let them grab you." We locked the RV doors, which felt ridiculous but also necessary. Through the window, I could see Mark and Jessica still sitting at the table, perfectly motionless in the darkness. Around 2 a.m., they started knocking on the door. Gentle at first. Tap, tap, tap. "Aaron? Colin? Let us in. It's cold out here." The knocking got louder, more insistent. "Come on, guys, this isn't funny." I peeked through the curtain. They stood right outside the door, both of them still smiling. The knocking turned to pounding. "Open the door." Their voices had changed, deeper, echoing, like multiple voices speaking in unison. Colin backed away from the door. Jesus Christ. The pounding continued for hours, steady, relentless. Then around 4 a.m. it just stopped. I looked out the window. They were gone. "Did they leave?" Colin whispered. I didn't answer. I was staring at something else. The woman in the pale dress stood at the edge of our campsite, and she wasn't alone anymore. There were others now. Maybe a dozen figures, all standing perfectly still in the darkness. Men, women, even what looked like children, all wearing pale clothes, all with those wrong smiles. They stood there watching the RV until the reset came. 6:47 p.m. Colin stood at the grill. Mark started a fire. Jessica pulled beers from the cooler. I didn't get up. I just lay there on the converted bed, staring at the ceiling. How many loops had it been? 30? 40? I'd stopped counting, stopped trying to keep track. Time had become meaningless. The door opened. Colin poked his head in. "Hey, you coming out? Burgers are ready." "In a minute." He looked concerned. "You sure you're okay? You've been in here for like an hour." "An hour. Right." From his perspective, I'd been napping. He didn't remember any of the loops. None of them did. It was just me, living the same night over and over, watching things get worse each time. I forced myself to get up and go outside. They were all there, sitting around the fire, laughing and talking. Happy. Unaware that in a few hours, some of them would disappear and come back wrong. Unaware that figures would appear in the darkness and surround our campsite. Unaware that we were trapped in a nightmare that kept repeating. "Aaron," Jessica said, smiling at me. "You look terrible. Are you feeling all right?" "Fine," I lied. Dinner happened. The conversations. I'd heard it all so many times I could recite every word. Around 9 p.m., the woman's voice started calling my name. Right on schedule. But this time I stood up. "Where are you going?" Mark asked, to find out who that is. "Aaron, don't..." Colin started, but I was already walking toward the darkness. I had to know. I had to understand what was happening, why we were stuck in this loop, what these things wanted. Maybe if I could figure it out, I could break the cycle. The voice led me away from the campsite, past empty RV pads and dark tents. I walked for what felt like 10 minutes, following the sound. Aaron, over here." I found myself at the edge of the campground, where a dirt trail led down toward the lake. The voice was coming from below. I started down the trail. The further I went, the darker it got. The campground lights faded behind me. Soon I was walking in near total darkness, my hands outstretched to feel my way forward. The voice stopped. I stood there in the silence, my heart pounding. "Hello?" I called out. Something moved in the darkness ahead of me. I heard footsteps, slow and deliberate. Then I saw her, the woman in the pale dress. She stood maybe 10 feet away, barely visible in the gloom. "Aaron," she said, "you finally came. Who are you? What do you want?" She tilted her head in that too far way. "Don't you remember me? I've never seen you before. Look closer." I took a step toward her, squinting. Her face was still wrong, still off, but there was something familiar about it now. The shape of her eyes, maybe. The curve of her jaw. "I don't..." Then I saw it. The photo I'd found under the bed. The family standing in front of the camper. The woman in that photo. "You were here before," I said slowly. "Years ago. Something happened to you." She smiled. "Yes. What happened?" "We didn't leave." Her voice was flat, emotionless. "We tried. We packed everything up, we drove away. But we always came back. The lake wouldn't let us go." "What does that mean?" "It means you're one of us now, Aaron. You and your friends. You'll stay here forever just like we did, living the same night over and over until you become part of the loop yourself." "No," I said. "No, that's not..." "It already happened. You're already here. This is just the process. Soon you won't remember anything else. Soon this will be all there is." "I'm leaving," I said. "When morning comes, we're leaving." She laughed. It sounded like wind chimes. "Morning never comes, Aaron, that's the point." I turned and ran back up the trail. Branches scratched my arms and face. I stumbled over rocks, barely keeping my balance. Behind me, I heard her laughing. When I got back to the campsite, Colin was putting out the fire. "Where'd you go?" he asked. "The lake I found..." I stopped. How could I explain? "We need to leave. Right now." "What?" "It's almost midnight." "I don't care. We need to get in the RV and drive away from here." Mark and Jessica came outside. "What's going on?" Jessica asked. "We're leaving," I said. "Now, get your stuff." They all looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. "Aaron, we're not packing up and leaving in the middle of the night," Colin said calmly. "If you want to go in the morning..." "There isn't going to be a morning," I shouted. "Don't you get it? We're stuck here. We've been living the same night over and over. I'm the only one who remembers, but it's happening." And if we don't leave right now... Okay, Colin said in that tone people use with crazy people. Okay, let's just calm down. I'm not fucking calm. Movement caught my eye. The figures were back, standing at the edge of our campsite. More of them now, maybe 20 or 30, all perfectly still, all smiling. Look, I said, pointing. Look at them. You see them, right? Tell me you see them. Colin, Mark, and Jessica turned to look. They were quiet for a long moment. There's nothing there, Aaron, Jessica said gently. What? They're right there. The woman in the pale dress and all the others there. But when I looked back, the figures were gone. The edge of our campsite was empty. Aaron, Mark said, I think you need to lie down. You're not feeling well. I'm fine. I'm the only one who's seeing this clearly. We're in a time loop. Every night we go to sleep and wake up at 6:47 p.m. and do this all over again. It's been happening dozens of times, and every time more of these things appear, and some of you disappear and come back wrong and... Okay, Colin said firmly. That's enough. Inside. Now. They practically dragged me into the RV. Colin made me lie down on the converted bed. Jessica brought me water. You're exhausted, she said. Just get some sleep. You'll feel better in the morning. There is no morning, I whispered, but I was too tired to fight anymore. They left me alone. I heard them outside, talking quietly, probably discussing how worried they were whether they should drive me to a hospital in the morning. Morning, as if there would be one. I closed my eyes. 6:47 p.m., but this time when I opened my eyes, I wasn't alone in the RV. Mark stood at the foot of the bed, staring down at me. He wasn't smiling. His face was blank, expressionless. Mark? I said, sitting up. He didn't respond, just kept staring. Mark, you're scaring me. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a knife, one of the camping knives from our gear bag. Mark, what are you... He lunged. I rolled off the bed, hitting the floor hard. The knife stabbed into the mattress where my head had been. Help! I screamed. Mark pulled the knife free and came at me again. I scrambled backward, knocking into the small kitchenette. He moved with that same wrong, jerky speed as the woman in the pale dress. The RV door burst open. Colin and Jessica ran inside. What the hell? Colin started, then saw Mark with the knife. Mark turned toward them. He still wasn't smiling, wasn't showing any emotion at all. He just advanced, knife raised. Colin grabbed him, trying to wrestle the weapon away. They crashed into the table. Jessica ran past them, heading for her phone. It's dead, she shouted. My phone's dead. Mark threw Colin off him with impossible strength. Colin hit the wall and slumped down, dazed. Jessica grabbed a frying pan from the stove and swung it at Mark's head. It connected with a sickening thud. He staggered but didn't go down. He turned to face her, and for the first time he smiled, that terrible, too-wide smile. Mark, please, Jessica said, backing away. It's us. It's Jess and Aaron and Colin. You know us. I know you, Mark said. His voice was wrong, echoing. I know what you'll become. He stepped toward her. I grabbed a bottle from the counter, wine, I think, and smashed it over his head. Glass shattered. Wine splattered everywhere. Mark dropped to his knees. Out, I yelled. Everyone out! We ran for the door. Colin recovered enough to stumble after us. Outside, we ran for the parking area where we'd first entered the campground. We need to get help, Jessica panted. The ranger station, it's closed, I said. It's always closed. Don't you see? This keeps happening. We can't get help because there is no help. We're trapped. Behind us, Mark emerged from the RV. He walked slowly, deliberately, the knife hanging from his hand. Blood dripped from his head where the bottle had hit him, but he didn't seem to notice. Run, Colin said. We ran into the darkness between campsites. I had no idea where we were going. Away from Mark, away from the RV, away from everything. We made it maybe 100 yards before Jessica fell. She'd tripped over something in the dark, twisted her ankle. Go, she said through clenched teeth. I'll catch up. We're not leaving you, I said. Colin and I hauled her up, one arm over each of our shoulders. We continued stumbling through the darkness. A voice called out behind us. Aaron, Colin, Jessica. Not Mark's voice, the woman's voice. I looked back. The figures had appeared, all of them, spread out in a line, walking slowly toward us. Mark was with them now, knife still in hand. This way, Colin said, pulling us toward a grove of trees. We crashed through brush and low branches. Jessica was crying, trying to keep weight off her injured ankle. I kept looking back, seeing the figures following, always maintaining the same distance. There, Jessica said, pointing. That building. A small structure stood among the trees. It looked like a maintenance shed or something made of corrugated metal. The door hung open. We practically fell inside. Colin slammed the door shut behind us. There was no lock, so he grabbed a piece of old rebar from the floor and wedged it through the handle. It was pitch black inside. I felt around and found a flashlight on a shelf, clicked it on. The shed was maybe 10 feet by 10 feet, filled with old equipment. Shovels, hoses, bags of something. It smelled like rust and dirt. What the fuck is happening? Jessica whispered. What's wrong with Mark? I told you, I said. We're in a loop. This has all happened before. Mark disappears, comes back wrong. Sometimes it's just him, sometimes it's all of you. And those things outside. The people in pale clothes, Colin said quietly. I saw them this time. You were right. You see them now? He nodded. After Mark attacked, something shifted. It's like I can feel it now. The wrongness. We've been here before, haven't we? Living this same night. Over and over, I said. I don't know how many times. Jessica was shaking. So what do we do? How do we get out? I don't know. I've tried everything. I've tried changing what we do, tried leaving early, tried confronting whatever's causing this. Nothing works. We always reset at 6:47. Then we wait, Colin said. We stay in here until what? Until we wake up again? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know if we would wake up again. Maybe this was the end of the loop. Maybe this was where it all ended. Something scraped against the door. We all froze. Scrape, scrape, scrape. Like fingernails on metal. Aaron? The woman's voice called softly. Are you in there? We didn't respond. Didn't move. Barely breathed. You can't stay in there forever. More scraping. Then silence. We waited in that silence for what felt like hours. Jessica leaned against the wall, holding her ankle. Colin sat on the floor, head in his hands. I stood by the door, listening. Around what I guessed was 2 a.m., I heard something else. Footsteps. Multiple sets, walking around the shed in a circle. Then they stopped. They're waiting for us, Jessica whispered. Then we don't go out, Colin said. But we had to go out eventually. We had no food, no water. And if the loop reset, we'd wake up at our campsite anyway. Unless we didn't. The thought occurred to me suddenly. What if we broke the pattern so completely that the loop couldn't reset? What if staying in here, refusing to participate, was the answer? We stay, I said. No matter what happens, we stay in here. For how long? Jessica asked. As long as it takes. The footsteps started again. Circling, circling. Never stopping. Then the door started to shake. Something was pulling on it, testing the rebar. It won't hold, Colin said. He was right. The rebar was already starting to bend. Find something to defend ourselves with, I said, grabbing a shovel from the pile of equipment. Colin found a crowbar. Jessica stayed on the floor, unable to stand. The door burst open. They flooded in. The woman, Mark, and all the others. Too many to count in the confined space. Their faces were all wrong, all smiling, all reaching for us. I swung the shovel. It connected with something solid, but more hands grabbed me. Cold hands, freezer cold. Colin shouted, swinging the crowbar. Jessica screamed. The woman's face appeared right in front of mine. Her smile was so wide it looked like it might split her face in half. "Aaron," she said, "welcome home." Then, 6:47 p.m. I opened my eyes. I was lying on the converted bed in the RV, staring at the ceiling. But something was different. I could hear voices outside, Colin, Mark, Jessica. The same conversation I'd heard dozens of times. But underneath it, I heard something else. Laughter, echoing. Multiple voices layered over each other. I sat up slowly. My hands looked strange, too pale. When I flexed my fingers, they moved wrong, with that same jerky quality I'd seen in the others. No. I stood and walked to the door, pushed it open. Colin stood at the grill. Mark started a fire. Jessica pulled beers from the cooler. They all turned to look at me. And I saw it in their eyes, that same wrongness, that same too-wide smile. "Hey, sleepyhead," Jessica said. "Have a good nap?" I tried to speak, but my voice came out flat, monotone. "Yes." Colin laughed, but it sounded like wind chimes. "Come eat. We just got here." I walked over to the picnic table and sat down. Everything looked the same as always, but now I could see what I hadn't been able to see before. The campground wasn't empty. There were others like us in every site. Families, couples, groups of friends, all frozen at different points of their own loops, all smiling. The woman in the pale dress stood at the edge of our campsite. She wasn't scary anymore. She was just there, like she'd always been there. "Aaron," she said, "you understand now." I did understand. We were all part of it now. Part of the loop, part of the lake, part of whatever this place had become. We'd keep living this same night forever, and eventually we wouldn't remember anything else. We'd forget that we'd ever been anywhere else. Forget that there was a world outside this campground. Forget what it felt like to be human. The sun was setting. Mark asked if I wanted a beer. I said yes. We sat around the fire and talked and laughed, and everything was normal. Everything was fine. Around 9:30, I heard a voice calling from the darkness. "Aaron, Aaron, where are you?" I stood up. "I'll be right back," I told the others. "Where are you going?" Jessica asked, but she was smiling. She knew. I walked toward the darkness, following the voice. A new RV had pulled into a site across the way. 4 people were setting up camp. One of them, a woman about my age, was walking through the darkness with a flashlight, looking confused. "Hello?" she called out. "Is someone there?" I heard someone calling my name. I stepped into her flashlight beam. She gasped. "Oh, you scared me. Hi, sorry. I thought I heard..." "Did you call my name?" I smiled. That too-wide smile. "Yes," I said. "I've been looking for you." Her face changed as she looked at me. Fear crept into her eyes. "What's your name?" I asked, though I already knew. I could feel it somehow, like I'd always known. "Rachel," she whispered. "Welcome to Lake Powell, Rachel," I said. "You're going to love it here." Behind her, I could see her friends setting up their camp, laughing, talking, unaware. 6:47 p.m. The loop was starting again, but this time, I wasn't the one trapped in it. I was part of the trap. My name is Olivia Davis. Everyone has the same nightmare, but we woke up with physical wounds. I need to write this down while I still remember what's real. While I can still tell the difference between what happened in the dream and what happened when we were awake. If we were ever really awake at all. We arrived at Ocala National Forest on a Thursday afternoon in late September. There were 4 of us. Me, my boyfriend Marcus, and our friends Jenny and Ray. We'd been planning this trip for months. A long weekend away from our jobs in Tampa. Just the 4 of us and our RVs parked at a primitive campsite deep in the forest. Jenny found the spot on some camping forum. Totally secluded, she'd said. No neighbors, no bathroom facilities, just us and nature. Marcus drove our 25-foot Class C while I navigated. Jenny and Ray followed in their smaller trailer. The highway gave way to state roads, then to a poorly marked dirt road that wound through increasingly dense palmetto and pine. Spanish moss hung from the live oaks like gray curtains. The GPS lost signal about 2 miles in. "You sure about this place?" Marcus asked, squinting at the narrow track ahead. I checked the printed directions Jenny had given me. "Should be another mile or so." She said to look for a clearing marked with a blue ribbon on a fence post. We found it just as the sun started its descent, a wide clearing ringed by towering pines and thick undergrowth. Someone had made a fire ring from stones. That was it. No posts marking sites, no picnic tables, no signs that anyone maintained this place, just empty forest and the distant sound of what might have been a creek. "Perfect," Jenny declared as she hopped out of Ray's truck, arms spread wide. She was like that, embracing everything with an enthusiasm that made me feel tired just watching. Completely off the grid, Ray started setting up their trailer with practiced efficiency. He'd been camping since he was a kid, one of those people who actually enjoyed sleeping on the ground and cooking over open flames. Marcus and I were more comfortable in our RV with its working toilet and propane stove, which Ray liked to tease us about. "You two are glamping," he said as Marcus leveled our vehicle. "This isn't real camping." "I'm 34, Marcus replied. "I've earned the right to shit indoors." We spent the evening like you'd expect, sitting around the fire, drinking beer, telling stories. Jenny tried to spook us with tales about Ocala's reputation. "They call this the Ocala curse," she said, her face half lit by flames. "People disappear here all the time. Hikers, campers. They just vanish." "That's because it's 600 square miles of forest," Ray said. "People get lost. It's not supernatural. It's stupidity." "Tell that to Daryl Gore," Jenny countered. "Or Pamela Smith. Or the college student who vanished 3 years ago. They never found any of them." I didn't like the conversation. I'd had enough nightmares as a kid. Terrible, vivid things that made me afraid to sleep until I was 12. My parents took me to therapists who said it was just an overactive imagination. The nightmares eventually stopped, but I still didn't like discussing that sort of thing before bed. Like speaking it would call it back. "Can we talk about something else?" I asked. Marcus squeezed my hand. He knew about my history. "Sure." "Ray, tell us about that disaster date you had last month." The conversation shifted, and I relaxed. We stayed up until almost midnight before the exhaustion of the drive caught up with us. Marcus and I said our goodnights and retreated to our RV. I brushed my teeth at the tiny sink, changed into pajamas, and climbed into the bed that folded down over the driver's seat. Marcus was asleep within minutes, his breathing deep and even. I lay awake longer, listening to the forest. The sound was different than the city. Not silent, but full of small noises I couldn't identify. Rustling in the undergrowth. Something moving through the leaves overhead. The distant call of an owl. Eventually, my eyes grew heavy, and I drifted off. The nightmare started immediately. I was standing in the clearing, but it was wrong. The fire still burned, but the flames were the wrong color, almost blue, casting strange shadows. Jenny stood on the opposite side, her mouth open in a scream I couldn't hear. Marcus was on his knees beside me, hands pressed to his ears. And Ray. Ray was facing away from us, completely still, his head tilted at an angle that made my stomach lurch. Then I saw it. A figure at the edge of the clearing. Not quite human. Tall and thin, with arms that hung too long and a face I couldn't focus on. Every time I tried to look directly at it, my eyes slid away, like my brain refused to process what it was seeing. The figure raised one arm and pointed at us, at me. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came out. The figure took a step forward, then another, moving with a jerky wrong motion like a film skipping frames. Marcus was still on his knees, Jenny still screaming silently. Ray didn't move at all. The figure reached out. I jerked awake, gasping, my heart hammering against my ribs. The RV was dark except for the faint glow of Marcus's phone charging on the counter. He was still asleep beside me, undisturbed. Just a dream. Just a stupid dream brought on by Jenny's stories. But my arm hurt. I reached over and turned on the overhead light. Marcus groaned and threw an arm over his eyes. "What the hell, Liv?" "My arm," I said, looking down at my bare forearm. 3 long scratches ran from my elbow to my wrist, parallel and deep enough to have drawn blood. Did I scratch myself in my sleep? Marcus sat up, blinking. Jesus, those look bad. Did you have a nightmare? How did you... I stopped, stared at him. Marcus, your neck. He reached up, confused, then his fingers found it. A mark on the side of his neck, like someone had pressed their thumb into the soft flesh below his jaw, hard enough to bruise. We looked at each other in the dim light. Neither of us said anything for a long moment. "Must have happened in my sleep," Marcus finally said. "Maybe I slept weird, pinched a nerve or something. And I scratched myself, somehow, without waking up." "You said you had a nightmare? Did you?" He hesitated. "Yeah. How did you know?" "What was it about?" This is going to sound weird, but we were in the clearing. The fire was burning, but it was blue. And there was something at the edge of the trees. I couldn't look at it directly every time I tried. He trailed off, rubbing his neck. "It's already fading. You know how dreams are." My throat went dry. "Were Jenny and I in it? And Ray?" "Yeah." Jenny was screaming. "Ray had his back to us and you were standing next to me." He looked at me. "Why? Did you have the same dream?" "I think so. I mean, it's hard to remember exactly, but blue fire. Something at the trees. Jenny screaming." We sat there, not quite looking at each other. The rational part of my brain, the part that hadn't had nightmares since childhood, the part that worked in data analysis and dealt with facts and numbers, was trying to explain it. We'd both been thinking about Jenny's stories. Our subconscious minds created similar scenarios. The scratches and bruise were coincidence. I'd read somewhere that people could hurt themselves in their sleep without realizing it. "It's just weird," Marcus said, "that we'd have the same dream. Jenny probably has everyone in this forest spooked with her stories." "Yeah, probably." But neither of us sounded convinced. Marcus turned off the light and we lay back down. I kept my eyes open in the dark, watching the shadows, listening to the sounds outside. It took me a long time to fall asleep again. And when I did, I didn't dream. Or if I did, I didn't remember it. Morning came with bright sunlight through the RV windows and the smell of coffee from Ray's campfire. I pulled on jeans and a long-sleeved shirt to cover the scratches, then joined the others outside. Jenny looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Ray was quiet, staring into his coffee mug. Marcus emerged a few minutes after me, wearing a collar-up shirt despite the warmth. "Rough night?" Jenny asked, her voice hoarse. "Bad dreams," I said carefully. "You?" She held up her hand. 3 scratches ran across her palm, similar to the ones on my arm. "Woke up like this and I had this nightmare. We were all here, but the fire was wrong. Blue, I think. And there was something watching us from the trees." The coffee mug slipped from Ray's hand, hitting the ground with a dull thud. "We all had it," he said. "The same dream." Nobody spoke. The forest around us seemed to press closer, the cheerful morning sunlight suddenly less comforting. "Show me your marks," Jenny said. We did. Ray had a bruise on his arm, dark purple in the shape of a handprint. Marcus showed his neck. I rolled up my sleeve. Jenny had her scratched palm. All of us injured. All of us from the same nightmare. "This is fucked up," Marcus said. "How is this possible?" "Shared dreams are documented," Jenny said. She'd always been interested in paranormal stuff, crystals and auras and past lives. Usually I found it harmless, if a little silly. Now her seriousness made my skin crawl. "Twin studies show it. Couples sometimes experience it. But 4 people having identical nightmares and waking up with corresponding wounds." She shook her head. "I've never heard of that." There has to be a logical explanation, Ray said, but his voice lacked conviction. Maybe we were all exposed to something. Carbon monoxide from the fire? Some kind of toxin in the air? That doesn't explain the wounds, I said. Stigmata, Jenny whispered. Physical manifestations of psychological trauma. That's not real, Marcus said sharply. That's medieval superstition. Then explain our injuries. No one could. We sat around the dead campfire in uncomfortable silence, each of us lost in our own thoughts. I kept touching the scratches on my arm, running my fingers along the edges. They were real. This was happening. We should leave, I said finally. Pack up and go home. Agreed, Marcus said immediately, but Jenny was shaking her head. Not yet. Not until we figure out what's happening. What if we bring this home with us? What if it follows? What it? Ray demanded. There's no it. We had bad dreams and somehow hurt ourselves, that's all. Is it? Jenny pulled out her phone, though I knew she wouldn't have service out here. I want to document this. Take pictures of our wounds. Write down everything we remember from the dream. If it happens again... It won't happen again, Marcus said, because we're leaving. I'm staying, Jenny said stubbornly. Ray? He hesitated, looking between us. One more night. If nothing happens, we know it was just, I don't know, coincidence. But if it happens again, we have more data. We can figure it out. Data, I repeated. Ray, we're not conducting an experiment here. Why not? Jenny's right about one thing. What if we don't understand what's happening? What if leaving makes it worse? He stood up, brushing dirt from his jeans. Look, I'm as freaked out as you are, but running away without understanding why feels wrong. One more night. If we all have the dream again, we leave first thing in the morning. Deal? I looked at Marcus. He was frowning, clearly unhappy, but I could see him considering it. That was Marcus, always trying to solve problems, never one to leave loose ends. Finally, he sighed. Fine, one more night. But we stay together. No one goes off alone. We spent the day trying to act normal. Ray and Jenny went on a hike around the area, though they stayed within shouting distance of camp. Marcus and I sat outside the RV, reading books we couldn't concentrate on. Every sound made me jump. The wind in the trees sounded like whispers. Shadows seemed to move when I wasn't looking directly at them. Around noon, Jenny came back looking pale. There are marks, she said, on the trees. We followed her about 100 yards from camp to a grove of pines. Someone, something, had carved symbols into the bark. Not the usual initials and hearts you'd see at a campsite. These were strange, angular shapes that hurt to look at. They seemed to writhe and shift in my peripheral vision. How long have these been here? Marcus asked. No way to tell, Ray said, examining them closely. Could be years old. Could be recent. They weren't here when we arrived, Jenny insisted. I walked this exact path yesterday scouting for the bathroom spot. You don't know that. It was getting dark. I know what I saw, Jenny snapped. These are new. I didn't want to look at the symbols. Something about them made my head ache, made my vision blur. Let's go back to camp, I said. The afternoon crawled by. We made a half-hearted dinner of hot dogs and beans, no one very hungry. The sun set early behind the thick canopy, and shadows swallowed the clearing. Ray built up the fire again, larger this time, as if the light could protect us. I have a theory, Jenny said as we sat around the flames. What if something happened here, some kind of tragedy, and we're, I don't know, tapping into it, experiencing an echo of it? Ghosts, Ray said flatly. Not ghosts. Residual energy. A traumatic event leaves an imprint. We're sensitive to it, and our minds are processing it through dreams. And the wounds, I asked. Psychosomatic. Our brains are so convinced by the dream that they create physical symptoms. It was a reach, but I wanted to believe it. The alternative, that something was actively doing this to us, was too frightening to consider. Let's stay up, Marcus suggested. If we don't sleep, we can't dream. But exhaustion crept up on all of us. Ray dozed off first, his head nodding forward. Jenny fought it, jerking awake every time her eyes closed, but eventually she slumped over. Marcus and I held out longest, gripping each other's hands, determined to make it through the night. "Stay awake," I told him. "We have to stay awake." "I'm trying," he mumbled, his eyes already half closed. "So tired." "Marcus." But he was gone, his breathing evening out. I shook him, but he didn't respond. Panic rose in my chest. I stood up, thinking movement would help, but my legs felt heavy. My eyelids weighed 1,000 pounds. This wasn't normal fatigue. Something was pulling us under. I tried to walk back to the RV. Maybe if I could lie down, sleep properly, the dream wouldn't come. But I only made it 3 steps before my knees gave out. The ground rushed up to meet me, soft pine needles and dirt. I fought against the darkness, but it swallowed me whole. The nightmare was worse this time. We were in the clearing again, all 4 of us. But now the blue flames were higher, crackling and spitting. Jenny wasn't just screaming. She was crying too, tears streaming down her face as her mouth opened in that silent wail. Ray was still turned away, but now I could see why. His head was twisted completely around, facing backward while his body faced forward. And Marcus was laughing. A horrible, broken sound that didn't match his expression of pure terror. The figure was closer now. Close enough that I could almost make out features, almost see what it really was. Tall and impossibly thin, with skin that seemed to shift and crawl. Where its face should be was just darkness, a void that pulled at my vision, made me feel like I was falling into it. It pointed at me again. This time I felt it, a searing pain in my chest, like something was reaching inside and squeezing my heart. I looked down. Blood was spreading across my shirt, blooming like a flower. I tried to speak, to ask for help, but when I opened my mouth, only blood came out. The figure took another step, its arm extended, stretching impossibly long, reaching for me. I woke up choking, gasping for air. Dawn light filtered through the trees. I was still on the ground where I'd collapsed, covered in dew. My chest burned. With shaking hands, I pulled up my shirt. 4 long gouges ran across my chest, deep enough that they were still bleeding sluggishly. They hurt like hell. Around me, the others were waking up too, all of them groaning and disoriented. Jenny sat up and immediately vomited into the dirt. Ray curled into a fetal position, whimpering. Marcus crawled toward me, and I saw that his face was covered in small cuts, dozens of them, like he'd been hit with broken glass. "What's happening to us?" Jenny sobbed. "What the fuck is happening?" "We're leaving," I said, my voice hoarse. "Right now. Pack up everything. We're getting out of here." No one argued. We moved like zombies, taking down tents, disconnecting water lines, closing up the RVs. Jenny could barely function. Ray had to help her. Marcus's hands shook so badly he kept dropping things. My chest screamed with every movement, but I ignored it. We had to leave. We had to get away from this place. It was Ray who noticed it first. "Where are the keys?" "What?" Marcus patted his pockets, then went pale. "They were in my jacket, right there on the picnic table." The picnic table was bare except for our dirty dishes from dinner. "Mine too," Ray said, checking his truck. "They're gone." We tore the camp apart looking for them. Searched the RVs, the vehicles, the ground around the fire pit. Nothing. Both sets of keys had vanished. "Someone took them," Jenny said. Her voice had gone flat, emotionless. Shock, I realized. She was in shock. "While we were asleep, someone was here." "Or something," Ray added quietly. The forest seemed to close in around us. Every shadow held menace. Every sound was a potential threat. "Okay," Marcus said, trying to sound calm and failing. "Okay." We hike out, follow the road back to the highway. Someone will give us a ride. We'll call for help. "That's 5 miles, Ray said. "Through the forest, in our condition." "You have a better idea?" We didn't, so we gathered what we could carry. Water bottles, a first aid kit, our phones even though they were useless without signal. Marcus found a tire iron in his RV and carried it like a weapon. Ray took a hunting knife from his gear. "Stay together," I said. "No matter what. Nobody gets separated." We started walking. The forest was different in daylight. The path we'd driven in on seemed narrower, overgrown. Branches I didn't remember reached across the dirt road. The trees pressed closer on both sides, blocking out most of the sun. We walked for what felt like hours. Jenny was fading, leaning heavily on Ray. Marcus and I brought up the rear, constantly looking behind us. My chest throbbed with every step, and I could feel fresh blood seeping through my shirt. "How far have we gone?" Marcus asked. I checked my phone. No signal, but the GPS still worked. "Maybe a mile." "It doesn't look right. I don't remember the road being this narrow." He was right. The road was barely visible now, more like a game trail than anything a vehicle could navigate. And there were those symbols again, carved into the trees on both sides. More of them now. Hundreds of them. They covered every trunk, writhing and shifting. "Jenny," Ray called from ahead. "Jenny, stay with me." She'd stopped walking, just stood there in the middle of the path, staring at something I couldn't see. "Jenny?" I moved forward carefully. "What is it?" "I was here," she whispered. "In the dream, this exact spot. We have to keep moving." "No." She turned to look at me, and her eyes were wrong, too wide, too bright. "We can't leave. It won't let us." "Jenny, you're not making sense. Come on." Ray tried to take her arm, but she jerked away. "It's in my head," she said. Her voice changed, became deeper, rougher. "It's been in my head since the first dream. I can hear it talking. It says..." She smiled, and it was the worst smile I'd ever seen. "It says we're home now." Then she ran, not back toward camp, but sideways, crashing through the undergrowth into the deep forest. Ray shouted and went after her without thinking. Within seconds, they both disappeared into the trees. "Ray!" Marcus yelled. "Ray, come back." Silence. Even the birds had stopped singing. "We have to go after them," I said. "That's what it wants, to separate us. We can't just leave them." Marcus grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at him. "Listen to me. Something is very wrong with Jenny. You saw her eyes. That wasn't her anymore. If we follow them, we'll get lost too." "So what do?" He didn't answer. We stood there on the path, alone, surrounded by marked trees and oppressive silence, waiting for something to happen. The scream, when it came, nearly stopped my heart. High and terrible, full of pain and terror. It cut off abruptly, leaving only echoes. "Ray," I breathed. Marcus's grip on the tire iron tightened. "Keep walking, we have to keep walking." "But now, Liv." We walked. Or tried to. But the path kept changing. We'd go around a bend and somehow end up back where we started. The symbols on the trees multiplied, covering every surface. And there were other things now, scratch marks on the ground like something had been dragged, dark stains on the leaves that might have been blood. My phone said we'd walked 3 miles, but the highway should have been visible by now. We should have heard traffic. "We're going in circles," Marcus said. "It's leading us back." "Back where?" "To camp. It wants us at the camp." He was right. I could smell smoke now, the familiar scent of our campfire. And there, through the trees, was the clearing. Our RVs sat exactly where we'd left them. "No," I said. "No, we walked for miles. We couldn't have..." Jenny was standing by the fire, her back to us, perfectly still. "Jenny?" Marcus called carefully. "Where's Ray?" She turned around slowly. Her face was spattered with blood. When she smiled, her teeth were red. "He's sleeping," she said in that wrong, too deep voice. "Like all of you will be soon. Sleeping and dreaming, forever and ever and ever." She started walking toward us. Not walking, gliding, her feet barely touching the ground. Marcus raised the tire iron. "Stay back," he warned. "Jenny, I know you're in there. Fight it." "Jenny's sleeping too," the thing wearing Jenny's face said. She invited it in with her stories and her belief. She opened the door, and now you'll all come through. She lunged. Marcus swung the tire iron, but Jenny was impossibly fast. She ducked under the blow and grabbed his wrist, twisting until something cracked. Marcus screamed. The tire iron fell. I ran. Didn't think, just bolted for the RV. Got the door open and threw myself inside, slamming and locking it behind me. Through the window, I watched Jenny, the thing that used to be Jenny, pick Marcus up by the throat. His feet kicked uselessly at the air. "Stop!" I screamed, pounding on the window. "Let him go!" The thing turned to look at me. Jenny's eyes had gone completely black, like the void in the figure's face from our dreams. "Come out," it said. "Come out and dream with us." "Live," Marcus managed to choke out. "Run." The thing squeezed and Marcus went limp. I don't remember making the decision. Don't remember my hands moving. But suddenly I was at the RV's ignition and I was hot wiring it like my dad had taught me when I was 16. The engine coughed, sputtered, then roared to life. The thing dropped Marcus and came for me. I slammed the RV into gear and hit the gas. The vehicle lurched forward. I saw the thing's face smash against the windshield. Then it was gone, thrown aside or underneath. I didn't care which. I drove. Branches scraped the sides of the RV. Something large went under the wheels with a sickening crunch. The road, if it could even be called that, was barely visible. But I kept my foot down, crashing through underbrush and around trees. The speedometer said I was going 40. My phone said I'd gone 2 miles, 3, 4, but I never reached the highway. Instead, the trees opened up and I was back in the clearing. Again. My RV sat there, exactly where I'd left it, and standing beside it was Marcus, whole and unhurt. "Liv?" he called. "Where did you go? Are you okay?" I hit the brakes, stared at him through the windshield. This wasn't possible. I'd just seen him, seen the thing kill him. "Honey," he walked toward me, concern on his face. "You look pale. Did something happen?" "Don't come closer," I warned. He stopped. "What's wrong? Did you find Ray and Jenny?" "You're not real. You're not Marcus." "What are you talking about? Liv, you're scaring me. Just come out. We'll figure this out together." I looked at his neck. The bruise from the first night was still there. His face still showed the cuts from the second dream. But his wrist, the wrist Jenny broke, was fine. "Show me your arm," I said. "Your left arm." He hesitated. "Why?" "Just do it." Slowly, he rolled up his sleeve. The arm was unmarked. Smooth skin, no injury. "You're not him," I whispered. "You're not Marcus." The thing wearing Marcus's face smiled. "Does it matter? He's sleeping. You're all sleeping. This is the dream, Olivia. You never left. You never woke up." The world tilted. I looked down at my hands on the steering wheel. Were they my hands? Was this the RV? Was any of this real? Through the windshield, I saw more figures emerging from the trees. Ray, blood covering his shirt but walking normally. Jenny, face clean, smiling that terrible smile. And others, people I didn't recognize. A young woman in hiking gear. An older man in a park ranger uniform. A little girl holding a stuffed rabbit. All of them with those black, empty eyes. "Join us," they said in unison. "Sleep and dream. It's easier than fighting. So much easier." My phone buzzed. Impossible, there was no signal. But it buzzed again and I looked down at the screen. A text message from my own number. "Wake up." The world shattered. I was lying on the ground, the real ground, cold and damp with morning dew. My chest ached, my head throbbed, and every muscle in my body screamed in protest. But I was awake. Really awake. Marcus lay beside me, unconscious but breathing. No injuries except the cuts on his face and the mark on his neck. Ray was a few feet away, curled on his side. And Jenny. Jenny was gone. Her sleeping bag was empty, the sides torn open from the inside. "Marcus." I shook him hard. "Marcus, wake up." His eyes snapped open. "Where? What happened?" "I don't know, but we're leaving. Right now. Where are the keys? He felt his pockets, and by some miracle his keys were there. Ray's too, sitting on the picnic table, like they'd never been gone. We loaded Ray into the back seat of Marcus's truck. He wouldn't wake up, just mumbled incoherently. And then Marcus started the engine while I grabbed our phones and wallets. I didn't care about anything else. Just wanted out. The road was there, clear and obvious, just as it had been when we drove in. We reached the highway in 20 minutes. Ray woke up as we hit pavement. "Where's Jenny?" were his first words. We didn't answer, didn't know how to answer. We drove straight to the hospital in Ocala, told the doctors we'd had a carbon monoxide leak or something, that our friend had gone missing in the forest. They treated our wounds, ran tests, kept us overnight for observation. Everything came back normal except for sleep deprivation and the injuries we'd sustained. The police found Jenny 3 days later. She was sitting at our campsite, right by the cold fire pit, unharmed. No memory of what had happened after the first night. She said she'd woken up alone, waited for us to come back, but we never did. They found symbols carved in the trees, just like we'd described. Old, they said. Probably some kind of primitive trail markers or property boundaries. Nothing supernatural about them. The wounds healed. The scratches on my arm, the cuts on Marcus's face, the bruises, all faded within a few weeks. But I still have scars on my chest. 4 parallel lines that look like claw marks. They itch sometimes, especially at night when I'm trying to fall asleep. We don't talk about what happened. Not really. Ray moved to California. Jenny's in therapy trying to recover the lost days. Marcus and I are still together, but we don't camp anymore. Don't even go hiking. We stay in the city, in our apartment with lots of lights and neighbors close by. I still have the dreams sometimes, not every night, but often enough. Blue flames and a figure at the edge of the trees. Jenny screaming silently. Ray with his head turned backward. Marcus laughing that horrible laugh. And sometimes when I wake up, there are new scratches on my arms. New bruises on my skin. Small ones. Like reminders. Marcus has them too, though we don't discuss it. We just cover them up and go about our lives and pretend that what happened in Ocala National Forest was just a bad trip. Some weird mass hallucination. Anything but what it actually was. But I know the truth. I know we didn't escape. Not really. Because sometimes late at night I hear Jenny's voice. Not from the phone, not from any device. Just there, in my head, speaking in that deep, wrong register. "You're still sleeping, Olivia. We're all still sleeping. And soon you'll dream with us forever." I look at Marcus, and I wonder if he's real. If this apartment is real. If I'm actually awake, or if I'm still lying on that forest floor, dreaming I escaped. The worst part is not knowing, never knowing for sure. I reach out and touch the scars on my chest. They're warm, warmer than the rest of my skin. Almost like something's moving beneath them. And every night when I close my eyes, I see that clearing, that fire, those black, empty eyes watching from the trees, waiting for me to fall asleep, waiting for me to come home.